Ladies and gentlemen, Tucker Carlson just absolutely blew the lid off of everything that's going on with Ukraine and Vladimir Zelenskyy. By now, I'm sure you've all seen Zelensky's catastrophic outburst at his meeting yesterday in the Oval Office with President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. And as a result of that outburst, negotiations are completely on ice and all aid to Ukraine has now been frozen. And to top all of that off, even Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the biggest cheerleaders for the war in Ukraine, the guy who's been practically begging to send billions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine, is now throwing Zelenskyy under the bus. And if you haven't seen that clip, take a look.
President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelenskyy again.
Folks, given Lindsey Graham's long-standing relationship with Zelenskyy, what we just saw is astounding. For years, Lindsey Graham has been one of Zelenskyy's biggest supporters, constantly pushing for more money, more weapons, and more war. But even he's had enough. And why? Because this entire situation is falling apart. Ukraine is losing the war, the billions of dollars we've sent them are gone, and now we're just left with the consequences: a destabilized region, a deeper economic crisis, and a massive geopolitical mess that the US should have never been involved in to begin with. And so that brings us to Tucker Carlson, who just got done laying everything out perfectly. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at what Tucker Carlson himself had to say about all of this. One of the most striking things about yesterday's Zelenskyy press conference was Lindsey Graham's reaction to it. The two are old friends, but Graham disavowed him within the hour. This was more than just transactional disloyalty, it was scapegoating. Lindsey Graham knows what's coming. Over the past 3 years, with the tacit support of its Western patrons, the Ukrainian government has committed a remarkable number of serious crimes. The Ukrainians sold huge quantities of American weapons on the international black market at 20 cents on the dollar. These weapons are now in the hands of armed groups around the world, including Hamas, the Mexican drug cartels, and the forces now controlling Syria. God knows what the Ukrainians have done with the pathogens in American biolabs in their country. Even the US intelligence agencies aren't sure. The Ukrainians have also murdered a number of people in various countries in political assassinations and tried to murder others, including American journalists and a European head of state. This is all true, and it's all going to come out at some point. Better to start blaming it on Zelenskyy now. And so, folks, there you have it. This whole Ukraine war narrative is coming undone, and now, as everything is coming crumbling apart, everyone is scrambling to cover their tracks. But now, before we move on with the rest of the video, I want to say real quick, if you guys enjoyed the daily news coverage, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle against the YouTube algorithm. But listen, folks, all of this stuff, none of it should be surprising. So far, the US has sent over $180 billion to Ukraine, and what do we have to show for it? Ukraine is still losing, the corruption is out of control, our weapons have ended up in the hands of criminals and terrorists all over the world, and the American people are getting nothing in return. But here's the worst part. This never-ending war in eastern Ukraine is creating long-term consequences that will haunt all of us for years. Right now, around 15 million Ukrainian refugees are scattered across Europe and North America, creating massive economic burdens on countries that are already struggling. The global black market arms trade is flooded with stolen American weapons because, as Tucker pointed out, Ukraine has been selling them on the black market. And right now, because no one prior to President Trump has made a serious concerted effort to de-escalate things with Russia, we're closer than ever to World War III. And for what? To prop up Zelenskyy? All of this is insane. But so here's the deal. As I'm sure all of you guys already know, the American people are done. We're finished with this entire situation. According to a recent Harvard University poll that came out just 3 or 4 days ago, 63% of Americans want to freeze and reevaluate all foreign aid expenditures, including those to Ukraine. Folks, that is 2/3 of the country. And also, as a reminder, as all of this is happening, President Trump's approval ratings are at an all-time high. 54% of the country thinks Trump is doing a good job. And so what does all of that mean? That means that when Americans said America first, we really meant it. We finally want to put America first and stop sending hundreds of billions of dollars to fund foreign wars. And so now, even our most pro war politicians here in America know the Ukraine war is a losing cause. It's a waste of taxpayer money, and no one wants to be involved anymore. Really think about it. Why do you think Lindsey Graham suddenly flipped on Zelenskyy? Why do you think the media isn't pushing the war in Ukraine 24/7 anymore? Why do you think Zelenskyy is getting more desperate and unhinged by the day? Because everybody knows this entire situation is coming to an end. The money laundering operation is about to be exposed, the corruption is about to be revealed, and Ukraine is going to have to accept a peace deal, whether or not Zelenskyy wants to, one that they should have taken years ago, by the way. As Donald Trump likes to say, this war never should have happened. And by the way, if he was in office, it wouldn't happen. So now we need to put an end to it before things get even worse. Because, folks, here's the bottom line. We have real problems that we need to deal with, that we need to take care of here in America. Our border was left wide open for 4 years during the Biden era, letting in 12 to 20 million illegal immigrants into the country. As a consequence, our crime rates skyrocketed, our economy has been struggling, and our own people have been suffering. Meanwhile, in the midst of all of that, we have been sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. Make that make sense. I don't think you can. Folks, here's the reality. The people in charge lied to us. They lied to the American people about this war. They said Ukraine was winning. The Biden administration said that Zelenskyy was a hero. They said that all of this was about fostering democracy in Ukraine. As we now know, literally none of that was true. In fact, because of the ongoing war, Zelenskyy has paused elections, he's declared martial law, he's conscripting young Ukrainians to go fight on the front lines against their will, and he's completely consolidated control over all of the media inside of Ukraine. I don't know about you guys, but to me, that sounds a little bit dictatorial. But so now, as we can all see, everyone in the media, all of the politicians are trying to distance themselves from what's going on in Ukraine because they know the truth is coming out. So personally, I'm just happy that this entire situation, this war, is coming to an end. By now, everyone knows that a peace deal could have been reached years ago, but that the Biden administration, various leaders in the EU, and Zelenskyy himself didn't want that to happen. And folks, we need to remember the real victims in all of this are the civilians and the soldiers that have been forced into this terrible situation against their will by a bunch of bureaucrats that have never and will never step foot onto a battlefield. So hey, when I see this image that's up on the screen right now, I couldn't be happier. This is exactly what we voted for, to put an end to this war and to push for peace when no one else has been willing to do that. But folks, I think that's going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below, drop a comment, let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video if you liked it. Like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and of course, as always, stay safe.